This is the Millennial Millionaire Through Real Estate podcast.
I always recommend a house hack because I think your cash on cash return is the best in that form of real estate investing.
You're listening to the Millennial Millionaire Through Real Estate podcast, where we discuss tangible tips, tricks, and best practices for becoming financially free. The show is designed for people who want to either start real estate investing or for those who want to scale their real estate business.
What's going on, everyone? This is Jonathan Farber, your host of the Millennial Millionaire Through Real Estate podcast. I hope you're all well and healthy. For any first-time listeners, thanks for being here. The goal of this show is to explore ways to become financially free through real estate or to increase passive cash flow through real estate. A little background on myself. I work in corporate America at a software company, and my side hustle is real estate. I currently own 8 rental units and looking to add more this spring. I have house hacked, bird, flipped, and done short-term rentals, to name a few strategies. My current focus is 20 to 30 unit apartment buildings in Ohio and Kentucky. I love to network and learn, so if you'd like to connect further, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Bigger Pockets. Today, we have an awesome guest, someone that I admire and really respect based on the strategy that they've put together with just a lot of hard work and effort and energy and just system building, Remington Lyman. He's based in Columbus, Ohio, and we first connected from Bigger Pockets. And I actually think the first time I saw him was on a YouTube video with another content creator who goes by the name of Meet Kevin, where he was doing a walkthrough of a property in Columbus, and I was still trying to figure out what markets I was going to invest in out of state. And I saw this video and then connected with Remington after, and he seemed to be perfect for helping out-of-state investors find and buy out-of-state property and then be successful with it. So really interesting stuff. And we'll get into all that in his background. A little background on Remington is he went to the Ohio State University, graduated in May 2016 with a degree in finance and economics. And after graduating, he got a job with JP Morgan where he worked as an underwriter. While working at the bank, he earned a real estate license and became a realtor. And his first deal was a house hack where he bought a property, lived in it, and rented out the other parts. And now he has 3 multifamily properties, which add up to 10 units total. He left his job so he could pursue this full time after working 3 years at a bank when he was actually laid off. And it was called at that time a site strategic reduction in force, but it was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. So he took a severance package and went full-time into real estate from there and grew his investment business and his brokerage business, which we will get into. So really cool stuff there. A great story of how someone actually, in background of how someone was working in a job and took a negative and turned it into a positive and became financially free through that. The 2 things that stood out to me from this episode were Remington's systems for finding off-market deals in any market. He's put together a blueprint, a plan, a structure that anyone can use to find off-market deals if you put the time or energy in, or if you link up with someone like him. And there is probably a commitment that you would just need to make, but there are ways that you can find tons of off-market deals with this strategy. The second thing is how to find the best local realtors and how to build relationships with them. For out-of-state investors, that's probably one of the biggest variables or mysteries. How do you find the best and get their attention and find ways to bring them value so they answer your call and they bring you leads when they find them? So he goes through his entire strategy on how he recommends people do it and his experience working with a lot of out-of-state investors, what ways you can stand out in doing that. Today's tangible tip is a Chrome plugin called Add to Any. It is a plugin that allows you to send via any social media or email any link or article that you're in, any web page you're in while you're on that page. And what I like about this is that you just click the link and it opens up either of these social medias and you can send it without actually opening that app. So for me, a lot of times I'll be working with my email off or my email on airplane mode. And anytime that I find myself being pulled back into my email, I find myself checking it and get distracted, and it's just not a good thing. So what I like about this is you can email someone an article, a video, anything that you think they would find interest in, and you don't have to actually leave the page and go into your email application. You can do it right from that page. So you just click this little plus button. It's just right in the plugin bar, and an email box pops up and you can populate their name in. You put the link in, which just auto populates, and then you can send it out in just 2 seconds. I like this because it's just an easy way to add value for people. Like if I find an article that they would find interesting or just something that I think they'd find funny, it's an easy way to just quickly send something out. You don't have to leave the page. You don't have to open up your email, and you can just get it off your plate. So I'm doing this constantly for people in my, I'd say, immediate group. They get a lot of these. Now you know how, and why I do it so quickly and easily. So that's today's quick tip. Without any further ado, awesome episode today with Remington Lyman. All right, Remington, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Yeah, of course, man. A little bit of a weird time, crazy time in the markets right now, but I was going back through just some of our emails and kind of how we got kicked off, I think through Bigger Pockets initially, and then back and forth, just looking at some deals. You're in the Columbus market and doing a lot of different types of transactions there, investing yourself, brokering deals. You're on the agent side of things. So I was really curious and excited to get you on to hear your perspective on not only the current state of the business, but where you think things are going and also how you're interacting with some out-of-state investors. So for those that do not know you from Bigger Pockets, or maybe you could talk to the Meet Kevin video that actually I think that's how we got connected. But for those that don't know you, can you just give a quick background on who you are, what you do, and what your real estate strategy is?
Yeah, so Remington Lyman, 25, about to turn 26 here. I have 14 rental units in Columbus, Ohio, contracted another 10, so I'll be 24 pretty shortly here. And kind of got started with real estate, just went to school at the Ohio State University, originally from Connecticut, got recruited here for the Ohio State rifle team, so got a scholarship to come and be a student athlete at one of the premier athletic colleges in the United States. So it was pretty exciting. Majored in finance, minored in economics. Really liked competing with pretty much everything I did, school, rifle, everything, work. And then I actually started working for Chase as a teller my senior year. Graduated, went to work in the private bank as an operations role, pretty much starter analyst role. Did that for a year. Moved up pretty quickly. After a year, got promoted to customized underwriter. Underwrote ultra high net worth individuals, net worths of 50 million or more. Spread their tax returns, looked at their personal financial statements, graded their risk, and then gave them pretty much unsecured lines of credits, all the way up to, I think the biggest loan that came through the bank when I was there was $2 billion. So it's pretty crazy. One thing I noticed, a kind of reoccurring theme, was they all had some form of real estate. And, I like financial freedom, started to listen to Bigger Pockets, and was renting, kind of figured I should, stop renting, flushing money down the toilet, and buy a house. So me and my college roommate, we were living still together at the time. Just post-college, he was working at Honda, me at JP. And then we were going after a single-family home, went into contract, fell out, and then our realtor brought us a double. And we liked the idea of being able to live in one unit and rent out the other unit. So we did that. After a month, we weren't paying any of our mortgage ourselves because we had rented out the other side in our extra room. And then our realtor brought us an off-market 4-unit. Did that, started cash flowing a bunch, and then I picked another one off the MLS. And within probably about 8 months, we had built our portfolio up to 10 units pretty quickly. I did an owner-occupant loan on the first one. My roommate did an owner-occupant loan on the second one. And then the third one, we actually did a really terrible commercial loan. That was like 15% down. At the time, we were trying to get 2 deals. So we had to go with like this mortgage broker. We did like 15% down on the 4-unit because we were trying to stretch our down payment out as much as possible. And the interest rate is like 7.75% with a 2-year prepayment penalty of 3%. But that prepayment penalty will end in August. So as long as we're still giving out loans, I'll probably refinance out of that. But yeah, so we did that pretty quickly. That was right around the time that I got the underwriting role. And when I got that, I kind of started doing just enough not to get fired at JP Morgan. And in my spare time, I would go into work early so I could get off early and go back home, and I'd cold call. I would pull lists off the Franklin County Auditor's website of 2 to 4 units because I wanted to purchase another owner-occupant. So I kind of built like a makeshift CRM in Excel and started building these relationships with all these property owners. So I did that for probably about a year. And then JP Morgan cut 10% of their asset management across the board. on all levels. And I think I was like one of the first interviews they did. So they let me go, and I was given a 3 months severance package, which is pretty sweet because I'd worked there for 3 or 4 years. So that was pretty cool. I kind of gave me opportunity. I applied to like 400 jobs back in banking, and then joined like Urban Land Institute, got really involved with professional organizations over the next like 2 months. Then right around when the 3 months was ending, I got another job offer back at JP Morgan for pretty much the same amount of money, similar role. And I had gotten my real estate sales license and was for about a month at that point. And when you first get your real estate sales license, it's a lot of learning. Maybe you have a few clients that are looking at stuff, but you haven't really made a sale yet or whatnot. And I don't know, I kind of consulted my girlfriend. I was like, should I go back to banking? I didn't really like it. Or should I continue to pursue this real estate career? And she's like, why don't you just give it, a couple of years? You're not hurting for money, and see if you like it. And so I did that, and now I just closed this past Friday my 27th deal, and I've been licensed for 10 months now. So I've been able to move pretty quickly.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how I kind of got involved in real estate. When I got laid off, I took all my money that I'd saved up and bought a 4-unit that needed a complete rehab for $80,000 in Franklinton. So in a couple weeks, I'll be finished with that full rehab. Started a couple months ago, and that'll bring me to 14. And then this 10-unit that I have in contract right now will bring me up to 24. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And then, yeah, like you said, how I picked up steam so quickly was I would just post on Bigger Pockets a lot. I naturally was working pretty effectively with out-of-state investors, as you know, kind of pulled you into my email list as well. I have your profile pulled up on my CRM as we speak.
Into the web.
Yep. So it's been pretty good. The way I present the data to my out-of-state investors allows them to kind of effectively make a decision pretty quickly. I try to, pull comps, rental comps, sales comps, any additional information I know about the data or the property, and give to them, and enable me to pick up steam with them pretty quickly. And it's cool to see. Most of the investors that I work with naturally are going to be newer investors as well. So it's kind of cool to see the people that started, investing right when I started becoming a realtor and were one of my first clients. Now they're a little bit more sophisticated. Maybe they've bought a couple turnkey properties, and now they're going after more of a rehab to try to do the BRRRR. Yeah, I really love it. Every deal is like its own competition. I like beating out the competition. I work pretty effectively where the only way we're not going to win the deal is if, someone else is going to offer more money, which, I can't. My investors, obviously, it's their choice on how much they want to spend, what their return needs to be. But my goal is to bring them as much information as I can to allow them to make the most informed decision.
100%. Okay, that's an awesome background. There's a bunch of stuff I'd love to drill into. Yeah. A lot of stuff I didn't even know, even just in the time that we've worked together, interacted. Didn't know that, I didn't know the college stuff and that you went to school, for athletics and all that. That's really interesting. And it sounds like you definitely have a more competitive side than most. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. I just want to dig into a couple things. A lot of listeners of this podcast right now, they work in a W-2 job. They're trying to do real estate investing as a side hustle. So you were doing something similar at the beginning. Turns out you didn't necessarily love the job. And then maybe through them having layoffs, a blessing in disguise took place, and you ended up getting out of something that maybe you didn't like anyway, and then you kind of catapulted into the next part of your career. So for someone that's working a W-2 job right now, and let's just say for the sake of this conversation, they're in a coastal city and they have some free time, they have some free capital. But anyway, they're trying to decide, I guess, that balance between working a W-2 and investing in real estate, how much time to spend on either. So what advice would you give to that person? Like, it seems like you had some hours blocked off for real estate investing, and then you had time set for your regular work. Is that how you would recommend someone else to do it? And then kind of do both and then try to make an escape kind of at one time, or do both for a while and then kind of phase more into real estate as you get more passive income? Yeah.
So I get that that question a lot from my investors. And I think, it just depends on your situation, what competitive advantages you have, what sacrifices you're able to make, what means you have, what resources, your wherewithal. And so, there's no one path for any one person, and that's a great thing about real estate investing is, it's a lot like investing in the stock market. There's many ways to do it. And there's many ways to be successful. There's also many ways to lose a lot of money. But, the easiest way, I think, is to house hack, which is what I did. And, I don't know how feasible it is on the coastal cities. I have talked to people who have done it, but you just don't get the cash flow that you get in like the Midwest cities. And, I'm from Connecticut, and I've looked at the numbers there if I was to hypothetically move back, and it wouldn't really work there. So yeah, anyone who I talk to who really wants to get involved in real estate, I always recommend a house hack because I think your cash on cash return is the best in that form of real estate investing. And people that aren't familiar with the house hack it's when you get an owner occupant loan on a property that you intend to turn into a long-term buy and hold, or you can also flip it. You're getting into the deal with an owner occupant loan is the main base of it. The way I did it is I took it one step further, which a lot of people do this, is you house hack a multifamily property. And the great thing about that is you can get an FHA loan for 3.5% down on a 4-unit, which typically, if you're an investor, you either have to put 25 or 30% down. And you typically get about 50 basis points lower on your interest rate as an owner-occupant loan. And then there's also even better programs that aren't FHA called, like every bank has a different word for it, but Chase, it's Dream Makers loan, where you can do 10% down on a 4-unit and 6% down on a double as an owner-occupant, and you don't get a lot of the fees that come with the FHA. And it's a conventional loan, so it's easier to get in the deal because there's less requirements. So that's one form. And then but for most of your viewers, and most of my clients, that's not really feasible. Most of them are doctors or working in Silicon Valley or, are on the stock market, working in the stock market, bankers in New York. And have kids where they don't want to move their whole family to a double or a quad,
right,
which is totally understandable. So, if you're going to do that and you're going to out-of-state invest because the numbers don't really work, the cap rates for a lot of people in New York and California, and you're going to do out-of-state investing, the most important thing is developing your team of 4. Bigger Pockets refers to it as your team of 4 rock stars. And that's kind of developing a team before you get involved, and that's of a realtor, a property manager, a lender, and a contractor. And developing that team of 4 competent people before you get started is very difficult because, people can promise you a lot of things, and they can even have really good intentions. But once you get into the deal, that might not always come true. But if you try to do that and start off, you're going to be better off than just kind of like going into it blindly. So yeah, whenever I have my initial conversation with my out-of-state investors, I say, okay, you're talking to a realtor. That's a good start. On my buyer pre-qualification form, I always give like a list of some references, local references of local lenders, local contractors, and local property managers. And right. I say, hey, do your own due diligence, reach out to them, but really interview them, because in this process, you're going to have to talk to every single one of those people in order to close, or you should, talk to all those people. And the nice thing about that is, as an out-of-state investor, a lot of my investors don't even come and see the property before they close. And if you have, if your first person that you're talking to is a realtor, I make money off of closing deals and selling to you. I have a fiduciary responsibility to you, but at the end of the day, those are where my incentives are. And you have to realize that when you're buying something, and as an out-of-state investor, that's a lot of trust to place in one person whose incentive it is to sell you this property. So I always tell my guys, like, hey, you should really speak to a property manager and, get their opinion on this too. And you should get a contractor and get their opinion on how much it's going to cost to rehab this. And if you use a local lender, like, they should be able to tell you their, opinion on the area as well. And if you kind of hold everyone accountable, or have each person on your team hold the other one accountable, then you should be pretty confident in out-of-state investing.
100%.
So yeah, that's pretty important.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, you touched on a lot of things there. The one question, just, you mentioned it earlier, like, again, just part of what building your team is. But for those, let's say, that are, again, in that W-2 job, they're weighing the pros and cons of either maybe jumping in or not jumping in. I guess just specifically to your story, how did you see things change, or how did you work around the limitations of getting loans without having a W-2? I hear that a lot. And I know a lot of people that stay in jobs just until they can max out their owner-occupied loans or their residential loans, and then they feel more comfortable to take a leap or do it full-time. But they know banks typically restrict lending if you don't have some type of stable job income.
Yeah. So the reason why I got into real estate investing was diversification of my income streams, which is good and bad. You know, when you're looking to get a loan, like you said, the W-2, the lenders, and, you know, disclaimer, I'm not a lender, so, you know, reach out to a lender for actual information on this. But lenders will take the way they calculate the debt to income, if you're W-2, they'll take your pre-tax monthly income and count that towards your debt to income ratio. Whereas, so it's really nice. Like, I was working for JP Morgan making 55 grand a year, you know, 55 grand a year. And then after you take out taxes and everything, it's really not that much, but they would count, but that's a decent amount for Columbus, Ohio. And they would, so and actually when I first started, I was in that ops role. So I was only making 48,000 a year, and they approved, but I had no debt because I was very fortunate where my parents paid for my college education, gave me a car. And they approved me to purchase a $330,000 property. Off making 48 grand a year, right? Which is crazy. So yeah, it's really easy to get a loan when you have a W-2 income is kind of my point of that. And now the funny thing is, you know, now that I'm a realtor, I make significantly more money than I used to working even in my first 10 months, I'm making significantly more money than I did working a whole year at JP Morgan, but I can't get a loan because I'm 1099. And so on paper, I'm losing money on my real estate. Like my filing, I think I declared like a net income of $600 on my 10 stabilized units this year. So that's a wash. And then my debt to income, you need 2 years of 1099 income, which is what you were alluding to, for them to take the average and count that towards your debt to income. So I have no income coming in on paper. So yeah, I can't get a loan right now, but unless I go commercial, which the 10 units is a commercial note, and they don't really care about, you know, my debt to income for the residential owner occupant stuff, which is good. So yeah, I would, and that kind of goes back to my point of the easiest way to get into real estate is house hacking when you have a W-2 job, because you can get approved for a lot. And if you're smart about it and you don't go out and buy a 400 grand single family home that's not going to make you any money if you rent it out, and you go out and buy a 4-unit or a double that is going to, you know, at least break even on cash flow when you move out, then that's when you start to build wealth and have someone else pay your mortgage. And then at the end of the 30 years, you know, you have a completely paid off property that you have hopefully had to put no money into.
Makes total sense. Okay. Really, really good answer there. Just again, because I think it's individual for everyone, but depending on which strategy you go with or what your short-term and long-term plan is, having a W-2 could help you. And, you know, you hear that all the time. It's actually like, I never understood it. I would hear the rhetorical question all the time, like, why don't brokers or real estate agents own rentals or invest in rentals? Well, the biggest reason I find is because banks have these policies that they look down upon, let's say, non-W-2 earners or commission earners that, you know, don't have very, very specific or set in stone income. So like, that's the first reason, but you found ways around that. And I think for people that are maybe looking, you know, I'm a big advocate of house hacking. Do it as many times as you can, as much as you can. Like, I house hacked essentially 3 times in 4 years, and I'm going to try to do it again with my next property. So like, I'm a huge advocate of it. And for those that have W-2s, I think you should try to get as much out of that, like use it and utilize that W-2 lending ability as much as possible until you can't use it anymore, and then explore creative strategies or consider other things. So really interesting there. And then it sounds like you scaled the business. You found some other lenders that you could work with to scale the business. But next, I really would love to talk about the actual real estate agent business, because, you know, we have a lot of real estate investors on here. you just talked a lot about your actual investing strategy, and you did it very creatively, and you're doing it very creatively, partnering, house hacking, finding good deals, off-market deals. But as far as growing the real estate agent business, I mean, I kind of look at it like you're spinning two plates. You want deals and you want people, and then you want to connect them. So you've built up a really nice out-of-state business and a really nice out-of-state, I would say, system. Can you just talk a little bit about how you got that off the ground? And of the 27 deals you've done, how many were either in-state versus out-of-state, and then how you kind of look at the two types of buyers?
Yeah. So of the 27 deals, I would say about maybe 4 of them were single family homes, owner occupants, like regular residential people, just not investors at all. And then of the 23 remaining that I've closed, maybe 15 of them were out of state and 8 were in state. And it's 2 completely different ball games. There's a less of a learning curve with in-state buyers. In-state buyers are able to do the rehabs a lot easier themselves because, they can check up on their contractors. They're able to, get into stuff that requires more rehab. And I find it more rewarding, seeing a dilapidated property become something that's, worth 100, 200 grand more than it was 6 months ago when my guy bought it. And obviously I have some out-of-state investors that do that as well, but most out-of-state investors will gravitate more towards the turnkey style properties where it's already rented, already stabilized. They can diversify their investment portfolio out of the stock market into the real estate market and pick up something that yields, their goal on their cap rate. And that's great too. I make 3% on this stuff either way, but yeah. And then how I kind of got into the out-of-state market was, there's a lot more out-of-state buyers than there are in-state buyers. There's just more people outside of Ohio than there are in Ohio and in Columbus, obviously. Right. And I mean, I kind of just fell into it where, I'm always competitive. I'm going to find a way to stay busy. I'm going to find a way to be successful. And when I was first starting, I, asked my buddy who was an agent as well, I'm like, how do you get leads? And he was like, well, I go on Bigger Pockets. I'm like, oh, well, I listen. And I had listened to, on my way to work, JP Morgan every day, I would listen. And on the way home, I would listen to Bigger Pockets podcasts. He talked about the investment forum. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And I bought the pro membership that at the time you needed to buy to set up keyword searches. And I set up Columbus and Ohio. And, every morning at 6 a.m. when I'd wake up and I'd, look at the 10 notifications that I had, and I would respond to every single person and add in Columbus. And then I would connect with them. And then whenever I connected with them, I would send this standard message like, hey, Jonathan, I'm a realtor investor in Columbus, Ohio, please let me know if you have any questions or if I can help you in any way. And then if you responded, I would send you a Google form that kind of, required you to put some skin in the game by, spending 30 seconds to fill out my form. That would schedule a meeting with us and then we'd talk. And I just would, grind on that, set up keyword searches whenever they came in the morning or throughout the day. I would hop on and respond. And I quickly built up a book of business. And so that's kind of how I, got into it. And I think it's a very easy way for any agent out there who's an investor as well, if they want business, to, leverage those forums. And, if you give good information and good advice and you're able to add value to these investors that want to buy in your market, I mean, you're going to do really well by that.
So that's exactly what I was looking for as far as that side of the business. Can you just talk to also how you built up the other side of the business, or how you actively build up the other side of the business, which is deals, if it's something like marketing or prospecting for deals, finding deals? I mean, you do seem to find a lot of off-market deals.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when I first started, before I even got my license, I was cold calling. So I knew what it took to get an off-market deal. Hours.
Can you just walk us through what that process was? I think I would love to hear it. Like what lists you were calling, what script you were using, what you were saying, if people were telling you to F off, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can talk about this for days. So I actually created procedures that, I'll give anyone interested on how to pull lists in the Columbus market. So Columbus is really, Franklin County is really good. They do a really good job at getting a lot of information from rental owners. and they put it all into their auditor site. So you can actually go on the Franklin County Auditor and pull lists for free. And you can narrow it down by neighborhood code, the property type, if you want a gas station or you want a 2 to 3 unit or you want a 4+ unit. And you get the property owner's name, you get the rental owner's name, which is sometimes the same person, or the rental contact name, and then you get the rental contact phone number. Yeah, so it's really valuable information, and that's the list I used to call. But I took it one step further about 6 months ago, and I started what's called skip tracing. So I started skip tracing those lists to get more numbers for each contact, because what I found is a lot of times, if you buy a rental property and you kind of know what's going on, you'll put your dog's name down as a rental contact, and you'll put a fake phone number, so you don't get a bunch of these wholesalers hitting you up. But you have to obviously put your real name in there. And so what skip tracing does is it takes some piece of the information that you get, you go through the procedure, and you end up getting, and it's all free, like 4 numbers, but it's very time intensive. You have to, go through a bunch of websites and do a bunch of data mining. And so I kind of did a procedure for that. And now I have a VA do it, and I, pay them like $3 an hour to do it. So I don't have to
scrub
do that.
The list.
Yep,
Yeah.
to scrub the list. And then I'll put those lists into my dialer, which I use Mojo Cells. And then that's a dialer that I can sit here while I'm checking my emails, and it just goes down the list and then plugs into my CRM. And then if I get a pickup and have a good phone call, I'll press a button, and that'll get pushed into my legitimate CRM, which is I use Follow Up Boss. And then that allows me to, take the lead from there.
Can we do a quick role play? Do you actually, like, you're doing email, it's auto dialing, and then if it hits, you actually get patched through immediately?
Yeah, I get patched through. So Mojo Cells is a great dialer. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones on there, but it'll get patched through. It'll pop up like who you're talking to. It's really great. But all these things, when I'm training new people, because I have 2 people that are actively cold calling for me and getting their license, and they're going to be part of my brokerage. But, I start everyone off, kind of like the bare bones, like, okay, here's how to pull the list, do the skip tracing yourself. I'm not going to pay for a profile for you on my dialer, but, just dial yourself and create a CRM. And then kind of, and that's how I started off. And then I'll give them, access to the dialer and access to my lists and everything. But yeah, so that's one way to do the off-market deals.
Can we do I'm actually really curious. Even if it's as simple, I would just love to hear what you say if someone picks up. You mind if we do a quick little mock call?
I'm kind of rusty because I haven't done it.
It's all good.
But yeah.
I'll lay over for you. Don't worry. But cool. Just like the general, like the gist, because I think what I'd love to do with this conversation is you hear a lot of people on Bigger Pockets or podcasts in general, and they throw out all the terms. I pull lists from the county website. I skip trace them. I put them in my auto dialer. I put them in my voicemail generator. I have my team do this and this. And people are listening like, okay, how do I hear all the words, but how do I actually do anything that person just said? And it's like a little, it's a little. Do you want
to start from like the beginning, very beginning?
Sure. I would,
tracing.
I would love to. Like, yeah, you're one of the first people that's even defined what skip tracing is, like, that I've heard. I usually press people to ask, like, hey, what is skip tracing? Or like, where do you get this list, or whatever?
I feel like in real estate, there's a lot of terms, and people use the terms like, just there's like a bunch of different meanings for these terms. So no one's really confident on what like BRRRR means, or what house hacking means, or skip tracing. So yeah, people kind of get weird, but I just kind of go with it, and I'll get called out later. But so I can screen share on this, right?
Yeah. No,
do you want me to do that?
That would be awesome. Yeah. For those on the YouTube, that'd be sure. Amazing, actually. So I guess just as you're pulling it up, just the one question I had from the county website, which that's very interesting, because I know not all county websites are like that, but if it shows the tenant name on there, and it also shows the owner name, or just the tenant name?
Well, here, can you see my screen right now?
Yes, Michael Cinzio.
Yeah, so this is our Franklin County Auditor site. Okay. So this will show the owner's name, but we'll just take you through here. So I'll do the property search. I'll do one of my properties. Address, so 2685 East. Very Good Homes, LLC. And you're probably wondering, Okay, like how do I get Very Good Homes LLC?
Yeah, exactly. Like people, I think, know
Right.
how to do this step, and then they're like, "What next?"
What next? So there's this website called Open Corporates. So I'll just paste this into here. This has all the kind of LLCs. So Very Good Homes. There's one in Texas, one in Ohio. Okay, we're searching the property in Ohio, so it's probably going to be this one. Click on this one. Michael Steyer. That's my business partner. Remington Lyman. Cool. All right, so these guys are probably the owners, but maybe they're the lawyers. So we'll go to the Articles of Incorporation.
Wow.
And sometimes it gets, a little weird here. So I always go to the actual state specific one, which is Ohio State Secretary. And stop me if I'm going too quick.
You're doing great.
So this is our Articles of Incorporation. Very Good Homes. So this is what I get when I file my LLC, and it's all public knowledge. Rental company, Very Good Homes. Okay, this is agent Mike Steyer. That could be a lawyer, but this is Remington Lyman, so that's owner. So let's skip trace. Actually, let's do Mike Steyer.
So basically, that step there, just to outline, that was to confirm who the owner of the
LLC is, because a lot of when you're calling on rental properties, multifamilies, a lot of people will kind of try to hide it, and also for liability, not want their names, or will have an LLC do it. So, you can't get sued, even though, speak to your lawyer. Chances are I've pierced the corporate veil and I'm going to get sued anyways. But so that's to figure out who actually owns the LLC. So once we have that, I take it to the people lookup, which I guess you could call the skip tracing website that you're going to use. So there's many ways.
Is this free or is this a paid service?
So this is free. The one I use is free. There are paid services out there, but I just use this one. It's just as good. The thing is, you can't bulk do it, but if you have a VA doing it, then it doesn't really matter. And it's about a wash. So I've removed myself from this, and hopefully my roommate doesn't see this. But
we can blur his stuff out maybe, or whatever. But okay, it's right there. We see it in and out quick.
Yep. So this is Mike, but this is guys from Texas, so clearly it's not that one. So Mike Steyer, we're gonna do Columbus, Ohio, because we're searching for properties in Columbus, Ohio. Okay, this is looking better. So Mike Steyer, Columbus, Ohio. So that's his current home address, his age, his name. So, but what he doesn't have here is he doesn't have his phone number, which we're looking for a phone number. There's a bunch of different Mike Steyers. I know that his age, so I can tell that those aren't it. But so this isn't a good one. So you'll have to do a little bit more digging. But do you want to try you?
Sure.
All right. So if I have Jonathan Farber, search. So there's probably going to be a lot of Jonathan Farbers out here. So let's get a little more specific. Well, the good thing about this list that I pulled is it'll give me on the Franklin County Auditor's website, if you go to the right section, it'll give you your number. So I have your number and I already know it, but if I pulled it from that list, I would search.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So boom, that's you. And it looks like you are actually, okay, here's some more phone numbers for you. Nope, that's not you. But it just kind of takes a little bit of, and it looks like you have most of your stuff hidden, which is good. But typically you'll have a bunch of phone numbers here. And, it takes a little bit of kind of navigating and a little bit of, finessing, but this is a general idea of getting this person's information. So, and you can also back into it if I had your address, which most of the times if you pull that list, it'll get your address. You can also search by address or, but we won't get too in the weeds. So that's how you skip trace it. You'll get 4 to 5 numbers and you'll put it in your list. And then you'll take that list and you'll put it into Mojo. And this is what Mojo Sells looks like.
Mojo is free or paid?
So paid. Yeah, when you start off, there's different programs, but it's typically about like 100, but I have a bunch of different profiles. So this is my cold callers calling. So one of my cold callers called yesterday, all these different people. So you can go to the data and you'll create you'll create a big list of the people that you skip trace, and you'll put it into these lists by just creating a list, importing it, import file, you'll CSV, and it'll go to it. And
name,
then
phone, contact,
name, everything.
whatever.
And then you'll do this dialer, and the power dialer will just go through each phone number and dial, and it won't ring in your ears, which is nice. And it'll just pick up once they pick up. And it's a little CRM too, so you can add notes here and everything. So this is Brent Kaufman. He's a big real estate investor in Columbus. He's not going to sell me his home. But the general idea, primary land use code. So this is a 403, which I believe is a 3-unit. And these are 4 phone numbers for Brent Kaufman. And one's probably his wife, one's probably his kid, and 2 are probably his. So, and so you'll just dial and cold call, and then he'll pick up and he'll be like, how the hell did you get my information? And you'll say, hey, it's public information off the Franklin County Ours.
Okay. That's typically the first, like, I'm just, let's, again, to make it as real as possible, like this, what you just did, I've had one other really, really interesting episode where it was very similar. They did a walkthrough, a little different process, but is that like the typical, if you get someone on the line that they're asking, how'd you get my number? Or is it, again, just trying to understand the talk track?
Yeah. So it just depends, and it also depends on what script you're using. So back when I was very, very new, I'd be like, hi, is this Brent Kaufman? And he'd be like, yeah, who the hell are you? I'd be like, hi, yeah, I'm Remington Lyman. I'm a recent graduate from Ohio State University. And, I'm looking to get into real estate. I'm interested in purchasing, a multifamily unit, because my goal is to kind of move into one unit, rent out the others, and start my path on financial freedom. And, Brent, he's a big real estate guy. He's going to love that. He's going to be like, oh, hell yeah, I did that 30 years ago when I got into real estate, and we'll have a conversation. And if chances are he's not looking to sell me his house, but, he's a real estate investor, he's looking for good opportunities. He's probably looking to buy some good opportunities. So I'll add him to my buyer's list. Or I'll be like, hey, Brett, I know you're not looking to sell 250 South High Street, but do you know of any other multifamilies that might be available? And they'll be like, yeah, I know, my buddy is trying to sell. And then boom, you have a lead there. So it's just talking to it. But now that I'm kind of, I can't really pass as a naive investor anymore. So, and once you have your real estate license, you do have to disclose that you are a realtor. So now I'll be like, hi, Brett, my name is Remington Lyman. I'm a local realtor and investor here. I have clients looking for multifamily properties in the neighborhood. A lot of my clients are looking to purchase retail. Are you looking to let any of your properties go for a fair price? And just start the conversation there. And the biggest thing about cold calling is you're never going to get someone on the phone for the first time to agree to sell you their home. What is going to happen is you're going to get them, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 10th time that you talk to them, to where they're finally at like a reasonable number where you can put a deal together. Or maybe now that a year later, there's a huge virus plaguing America and their stock portfolio went down 40%. And now that you've developed a rapport with them for the last year, you're the first person they're going to call because they want to liquidate something.
Got it.
And that's how that's how I got my 4-unit off market deal that I'm rehabbing now. That's how I got my 10 units that I'm closing on right now. So this form of investing, it's very labor intensive. And, if you're a surgeon in California, you're probably not going to be doing this. You're working 40 hours a week for, Goldman or JP Morgan or, Bank of America. You could probably do some of this. But, a lot of my investors aren't going to be able to buy this or going to be able to do this. And so if I get a really good deal, I'm probably going to go to those surgeons and try to partner with them on this, on a killer off-market deal. I pitch very little of these deals to my investors just because there's not a lot of them, and it takes hours and hours and hours of doing this to get a deal that's actually worth going after.
100%. Seeing this shows how spot on that is, and how time and labor intensive it is.
Well, and what you don't see is it's taken me years. That's over embellishment, but I guess, at this point, 2 years to refine this process, to get it to exactly what I just showed you. I started off just like I told you, pulling lists off the Franklin County Ours website and not skip tracing them, dialing by hand on my phone, compiling lists. But this makes it all that much easier and enables me to move at 20 times the speed.
So in relation to this, is your primary, and this is amazing, by the way, and thank you so much for sharing this. And I think this is just continuing your brand of value add. And I mean, people are going to see this and it's just value add. Now it's kind of like anything. You show people all the steps and they probably won't do it. So it kind of is what it is.
And
like,
that's why I don't mind showing people.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. Ideas are, in my view personally, ideas are literally nothing. Execution is everything. There were 50 Facebooks before Facebook, but it was executed differently. It ticked, it got certain press, whatever. So you just showed me that, and however many 100 or 1,000 people listen to this and see that, no one's really going to, like, again, that's why you are paid to do what you do. And that's your value in the marketplace, to do that list finding and building an off-market deal. So I just have 2 follow-up questions on that. I know we stuck on that for a long time, but I think it's really important. And like, that's the nitty gritty that I think most people just gloss over when they talk about off-market deals, skip tracing, batching, whatever. So 2 questions. One, is that your main marketing strategy, or are you partnering that with anything like door knocking, mailers, anything else? I don't know, like other strategies that people use.
Yeah. So this is how I get deals. This is not how I get deals for you or for any of my other clients for the most part, unless, and I haven't been able to successfully do this. Granted, I've only had my license for 10 months and haven't been in this for very long, but what this will lead to is me partnering on deals with people like you or the surgeons in California that can't find these off-market deals at these amazing cap rates. But am I taking this deal that has a great cap rate and brokering it for my client for 3% of, $200,000? No, absolutely not. Most of the deals that my clients close on are deals on the MLS, and I will see a good MLS deal that I think has value, and I'll underwrite it and I'll send it out to, I have about 170 qualified investors that, I've had a phone call with, and continuing to be responsive to me, because if you don't text me for, 2 weeks and I've texted you 5 times, I'll kick you off the list. And out of those 170 people, 10 people will message me back and 3 people will write offers, and, I'll get the deal 50% of the time. So that's how most of the deals that I've brokered. I've brokered a couple deals that and this is how I'm trying to build. This is now that I'm trying to add more value to my clients by finding more off-market deals. I've brokered a lot of deals where I'll connect. Whenever I do broker an on-market deal with a realtor, they're on the selling side of that deal. And if they're selling me a multifamily property that is good enough for my clients, my out-of-state client or in-state clients interested enough to buy it, chances are they have access to many more deals. And what I do is I add them into my CRM as a off-market lead source. And I have my administrator text them every 2 weeks saying, hey, Joe, do you have any off-market deals? I have a bunch of clients looking for solid 1%er multifamily deals in C locations. Mm-hmm. And, Joel will text back, be like, hey, Remington, I love working with you. We've brokered $1 million in deals so far. I got one of my clients is thinking about selling this. They're 1031ing into something bigger. Don't shoot this out to the world, but if you bring a qualified buyer, we'll just do this off market. And I just got my buddy a great double in Old North Columbus, which is where I started out, and he's a owner occupant, and I probably got him a deal that's like 30-40 grand under into equity that he just bought into, which is great. And so that's how I'm trying to, bring even more deals to my out-of-state investors and whatnot. For example, a double just hit the market yesterday. I think I sent the deal to you. You don't check my emails, by the way.
We need to fix that.
Yeah, I have a mail recording, but this double in a C location hit the market, and I know a listing agent really well, Trent Eckler, and within like 3 hours, he had 5 offers. I had 1 cash offer that was pretty good asking, and I had like 5 other clients who wanted to make offers on it. But Trent already told me that he was like at 15 grand above asking already finance deal, which I had a cash offer at asking. They're going to take the one. If it's 10 grand apart, they're probably going to take the financing and take the risk on it. But Trent came back to me and he was like, hey, my seller also has 7 of these other same deals, that he's looking to liquidate. So now I have 5 buyers. If everything works out well, I'll get 5 of those doubles. and for my clients. So that's how I'm trying to, add value to my investors, by just hitting up these deal makers and trying to get leads before they hit the market. Because it's a seller's market, and when stuff hits the market, it just gets bid up to crazy numbers. And it's frustrating on my part because I have 5 offers at asking, but I don't get the deal. So if I can get that deal before it hits the market, then, I can put something together, make my investor happy, get 3% commission, and have a happy client that one day is going to either buy more or sell that one.
100%. And by the way, I realized, dude, I mentioned this to you before. I got to change this folder setting, but I will. And anyway, on the actual like brokering versus like taking deals down yourself, I think that's a common question. I'm curious, how do you decide between partnering on a deal? You kind of talked about it, but how do you really decide at the detail level between partnering on a deal, let's say wholesaling a deal, or selling a deal?
Yeah. So, and I disclose this to all the people that I talked to on my first call, like, hey, listen, like, I'm an investor first. Sure. So, and, if you're upset about, me looking at a deal and me not showing it to you because I'm taking it for myself, then like, we're not going to work well together. And some people get pissed off and, they don't work with me and they work with someone else, but that's fine. But I always make the argument, like, I know what I'm doing. So, and I can't take down everything. So I'm going to show you a lot of off-market stuff that I'm not interested in. And even on the on-market stuff, I'm going to give you a better fighting chance that some realtor that's not an investor, that doesn't really know what they're doing, is going to give you. For example, and so, sorry, I'm kind of digressing, but yeah, so as far as the deal, whether I take it down myself, I mean, for me to get a deal, I have to be able to, if I'm doing like a 25% down commercial deal, I have to be stealing the deal and buying into a lot of equity. So this 10 units that I'm closing on, it's an amazing deal. If I'm house hacking, my goals are very different. I don't need as big of a return because I'm getting into the deal for much less. I just need it to be somewhere where I'll actually be willing to live, where I'm going to be fine with, my girlfriend walking down the street, or, a yard for my dog. Although I live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, small apartment right now because I can't afford to rent any of my rentals because they're too expensive. Yeah. So it just depends on the deal. And then I don't really wholesale. I don't get anything in contract that I don't have the intention of closing myself. I'll act as a dual agent with sellers and buyers. So I'll represent the seller and the buyer and act as a dual agent and get more than a standard 3% commission, typically 6 or 5%. And then if a wholesaler will give me a deal, I'll like ask for permission to send it out to my clients and just represent them. But it's all walking a fine line, because as an investor realtor, we're held to a bunch of ethics and a bunch of rules, and there's just so many. At any given time, you're breaking 3 or 4 of them. But it's just not breaking the wrong rules where they're going to come back to bite you. But yeah, so it just depends on the return, if I'm going to take it down, or if I'm going to partner with someone, or if I'm just going to try to broker it.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. I feel like, Remington, we could talk about this for hours, days. I mean, and you have such an interesting strategy and story that it's really cool to see how you've put it together, and you've scaled your investing business and your out-of-state broker business that I don't think a lot of brokers or agents do. I don't know why. Probably because it's just a lot of work, and you've put the time in and grinded it out. I'm just looking for the layup.
Working 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, it's constant.
100%. So I guess just the last question before we kind of go into the show wind down. You work with a lot of out-of-state investors. I talk to a lot of out-of-state investors all the time, and they're always asking, how do I build relationships? How do I get connected with brokers? How do I, make sure that I show them that I'm serious? So for the ones that you've worked with, is it as simple as them reaching out to you and just being straight up? Is there any tips or advice you have for out-of-state investors looking to make connections with in-state agents?
If you're an investor, it's very important that you get hooked up with an realtor that's also an investor, and for example, with property taxes, if you buy a home that's for $200,000 and it's currently assessed at $100,000 in Columbus, your property taxes will double. And typically investors, if they're working with a realtor who's not an investor, will underwrite their deal at the current property taxes, not the pro forma taxes that are going to step up in the next year. So that'll completely kill the deal for them. So if you're not working with an investor realtor,
Such a good point.
yeah, you're gonna make a lot of bad decisions. So that's why it's important. And how you do it, I would recommend getting on Bigger Pockets and just, saying, hey, I'm looking to invest in real estate in this market. Does anyone have any good referrals? And 4 or 5 realtors who are also investors are going to respond to you and try to connect with you. And everyone on Bigger Pockets, for the most part, at least has an interest in real estate investing. Reach out to property management companies and ask property management companies who they would refer them to, an investor or a realtor, because property management companies are going to work with realtors that are investors buying rental properties, maybe not contractors. Investment forums are good, and property management companies, I would say, a good start.
Okay, got it. I think a lot of people get stuck on that, so appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
If it's cool with you, Remington, covered a lot of topics. You mind if we move to the show wind down?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, these are just some rapid fire questions, tangible tips, tricks, day-to-day tactics, and time management stuff. So I think for most investors or people that are trying to improve themselves, stay educated, they understand the value of being around the right people or following the right people. So are you part of any groups? Do you have any masterminds, RIAs, stuff like that? Do you like to be around the right people that you go to if you have questions or need advice, or just surround yourself with?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to have mentors. So get like a couple big or good mentors. Like I said, when I got laid off, I immediately joined as many professional organizations and meetups as possible. So I joined Urban Land Institute, which is a professional organization that's global, and it focuses on like commercial development legislation around like the commercial space for real estate. I went on meetup.com and joined, and Bigger Pockets has a meetup section, and joined like every local real estate investing group possible. And in like Columbus, there's probably 10 different ones every month. So that was really good. I do a lot of business with people that I meet from there. I volunteer for Habitat for Humanity on the homeowners selection committee. That gets me out to like the lower C neighborhoods that I wouldn't typically go out to, and kind of, forces me to out there. And a lot of those people that we're selecting for the homes live in rentals, and kind of I'm able to see like the conditions of those homes while also helping people. So yeah, meetup.com is really good. Bigger Pockets. Now Facebook has like events and stuff. Just kind of if you immerse yourself in the culture, I mean, you're going to do really well by it. And I have clients from California that, go to the local real estate meetups, and they all talk to each other, and I come to find out like they all know each other, and they're all like doing deals with each other, and they're like going on deals that I'm brokering together. It's kind of crazy. So yes, it's definitely recommend doing that.
Okay, cool. Do you have a system, or do you use a system to plan your time, or how you want to plan out your weeks or your days, anything like that?
Yeah, as a realtor, it's kind of sporadic, but I have Calendarly, which hooks up to my calendar. So if an investor or a client wants to meet with me, I block out like certain times of the day that I'll schedule meetings, so I'm not like working at 7 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. So that helps. And then, all my like CRMs help me with that. So yeah, I would recommend getting Calendarly and just kind of religiously using your like Google Calendar or whichever one you use.
Got it. Are you trying to batch certain days of the week or certain times of the day where you're focusing on prospecting or doing showings or stuff like that? Because I know it seems like you're doing a ton of off-market prospecting and a ton of out-of-state investor relations. So it just seems like however you're doing it is working. So that's the reason I'm asking, because it seems like you have good systems in place.
Yeah. So back when I was working my 9-to-5 job, I definitely had like a period of time set for each task. So like I would cold call 3 hours after work each day. Now that I'm a realtor, clients kind of demand my attention all the time, which kind of makes it difficult for me to cold call. And that's why I started my brokerage with my business partner, and I'm training 2 people to actually just cold call for me. So I have times throughout the week that I'll meet with them and kind of go over their progress and train them, because, you can cold call like all day during the week and sometimes during the weekends. So yeah, now that I'm a realtor, my time's kind of sporadic for the most part. And hopefully, it just kind of depends. But for the most part, I kind of just look for bottlenecks in my process. Where am I spending the most time? Can I automate it? If I can't automate it, can I delegate it? over time, it's building a system so, I don't really have to work too hard and I can still make money because it's either all automated or someone else on my team is doing the work for me.
100%. So that's a perfect segue into another question. It's just part of the wind down is virtual assistants, leverage systems. So it sounds like you've kind of got all the above. What systems are you using? What leverage are you using, and how are you finding them?
Yeah. And so that's not something I'm super strong at least kind of, I have trouble taking a step back and delegating work or like identifying stuff that can be automated or given to my VAs. People that I work with is really, really good at it. And he specializes in Airbnbs. And a lot of Airbnb is just getting virtual assistants to be able to handle all the tenant relationships and everything, check-ins, check-outs. So he's been able to assist me in setting up a lot of VAs. And we use Discord for messaging. We have the VAs from 7 to 7 every day, just kind of doing like menial tasks for us that, for example, like skip tracing that we don't want to spend hours and hours on doing, that we've kind of created this policies and procedures for that we can just give the VAs and they can action for us. And that's super important. That's something, I've learned off like the Bigger Pockets podcast, listen to podcasts, like the successful people, because you only have so much time in the day. And I can only broker so many deals until the point where I'm just overwhelmed. And I either need to be satisfied with the amount of work I'm doing and continue just grinding or get more efficient at it.
100%. Couldn't agree with that more. Last thing just on that, is there any tip for someone that's looking to maybe start out using virtual assistants or leverage that they may be at a standstill right now? They're not using anything?
So I would recommend just Upwork. So just go on Upwork and you can do job postings and hire assistants and start off with something like really easy, and it's not going to be a whole lot of money, but just kind of get a task that, maybe it's even like checking your emails and kind of create a policy and procedure on clearing, like organizing your emails. So you're not seeing, so you're only actioning the important ones and maybe they're actioning like the really easy ones. And one really important aspect of that is make sure that you hire, 3 virtual assistants and give them all the same task and see which one does it best. And then maybe narrow it down and kind of like do rounds of interviews until you have the best one, because there's a lot of bad virtual assistants out there. Yeah. And starting with a bunch and giving them a simple task or a task that you want to do and giving them all the same and hiring the best really, really helps. And you can do that with skip tracing. Like skip tracing is super easy. Like you can learn to do it in, 15 minutes and you can just give them a big part of the list and see which one gives you better data.
Really interesting. That's really smart. I haven't heard anyone talk about doing that, like as a strategy, hiring multiple at one time, but that's a really good way to do it. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I stole it from another podcast.
That's what it's all about, man. Recycled information. Just be a vessel that holds the most.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So where can people learn more about you? You got a lot of content out there. You're on Bigger Pockets.
You can
maybe the YouTube episode also.
Yeah, meets Kevin. I didn't know who he was until he went around and or one of my clients introduced me to him, and then I checked he had like 200,000 subscribers. It was crazy. Yeah, so YouTube, I'm mostly on Bigger Pockets, and then I have like a Zillow Premier Agent account, so you can like just Google my name, Remington Lyman, Zillow, and find me there and message me through there if you want to connect. Don't go on my social medias. I need to like get a professional account or something. It's like complete garbage. But yeah, Bigger Pockets or Zillow.
Okay, got it. That's great. All right, so no one go to his social media accounts. There's clearly some weird stuff going on there.
Yeah, I won't add you.
Let's stay off. Okay, awesome. The last question before the last question, sorry, the penultimate question. What would you tell your younger self starting out in all this?
I think about this a lot. I would say get into real estate sooner, do the corporate job for 4 years. But I mean, without that experience, I wouldn't have learned how much I didn't enjoy that. And I mean, I would probably tell myself, start in college, start cold calling as soon as possible, because even if you don't have the money to put a deal together yourself, if you find a good enough deal, money will come. I mean, you can do that, at any age where you can sound intelligent. So, I mean, high school, college.
Love it. Get in the game earlier. Start taking action. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, last question. Kind of touched on it, but I'd like to ask everyone, there may be something specific. You have a lot of people reaching out to you all the time. You have a lot of people probably asking for your advice, pick your brain, virtual coffee, be my mentor, whatever. A big theme of this group for those that follow, they know this question's coming, is we like to add value before we ask for value. So is there anything right now that you could either need help with that maybe you know you should be doing, but you're not doing, or maybe you're just not good at doing and don't like doing, that if someone reached out to you to try to bring you some value, they'd be starting the relationship on the right foot?
Yeah. I mean, so whenever, anyone local contacts me, and out of state people can too do this as well, ask to cold call. I always need deals. I mean, I have too many buyers and not enough deals. So if you want to learn the business and, really cut your teeth, reach out to me and I'll give you my policies and procedures on how to pull lists, how to skip trace. And, if you bring me a deal, we can definitely work together. I can pay you back with experience, show you how to put the deal together, and then you can take that knowledge back to, if you're out of state, into your market, or if you're in Columbus, you can do deals here as well.
Remington, this was probably the most in-depth, in the weeds, nitty gritty, but in the best way possible episode that I've ever done, because you talked about so many of the strategies and the tactics that you're using on a day-to-day basis, which is so far opposite of most people that talk about fluff and they glaze over stuff. But for you, what I love about kind of your strategy and your approach is you are in it and you are thinking about creative ways to do things that other people aren't doing. And you're seeming like you're constantly taking the growth mentality and working to find new strategies and tactics. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing those. And thank you for kind of putting them out into the world and helping the investors that you do. Before we hop off, is there any final word or parting word you want to just leave the group with?
Just work really hard, live below your means, invest in smart decisions. That way you can have the financial freedom in the future.
Okay. Awesome. Remington, thank you so much for coming on, man. Best of luck in 2020. I am undoing this folder setting right now, so I'll be seeing your emails now.
Yeah,
I feel guilty.
One open.
Boom. You just saw it, dude. And by the way, what is that CRM again? You said it. It's amazing, actually.
Follow Up Boss.
Follow Up Boss. That's your CRM?
It's pretty good for like agents or, people trying to put real estate deals together, wholesalers.
Is it just sales, or, is it just a CRM, or is that your email management?
Yeah. So it's my email management, text messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. You can hook up everything to it. It's pretty solid. I got your pre-qualification in here. I got your address, where I met you, all my emails, all my texts with you, my notes, your pre-qualification information. And I'll follow up with you on April 2nd about buying more real estate.
My man. Okay, perfect. Remington, thanks again, buddy. Great having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jonathan. Bye.
All right, bye.